this video here, one of the things I've talked about, you've probably seen me, some of you may have seen me talking on Edge of Wonder and other interviews that I've done, where I talk about the Sphinx being 36,000 years old. And also there's a very famous man, John Anthony West, who unfortunately passed away recently. I was really looking forward to going on his last Egypt tour with him. He didn't make it. Probably go with Robert Shoch, his partner, who's still alive. He's a professor, an archaeologist, and a geologist. But I want to play this very, very short clip. Hopefully the sound works on this, because he has some very important things to say. And this is something that I really discovered that correlated with my research and really got me feeling like I was really on the right track. So I'm going to press play on this thing here.
Years, I think that's what it is. There is, at least in principle, a method of trying to settle this dating question. But my own view is that it's this older date, partly because the Egyptians themselves say that's where their civilization began, and then partly because of I think, the very plausible suggestion that the Sphinx is meant as a marker of the age of Leo. Now, this is another hotbed of controversy, but there's a lot of reason to think that the ancients, very, very ancients, knew about the precession of the equinoxes and the shifts of ages, you know, that goes, we're now the end of the age of Pisces and coming into the age of Aquarius. And there's plenty of good reason to think that this knowledge of precession goes back into deep, deep antiquity. So if the Sphinx is actually intended as a Leo marker, it only gives you a couple of choices, because the last age of Leo is around 10,000, 10,500 BC. This is the date chosen by Bauval and Hancock for dating the Sphinx, because everything else aligns. And then if you add to that the probability that the Sphinx is looking at its own image in the sky when it rises against the sun at the equinox, you've again got this 10,500 date. The problem with that date, as far as I'm concerned, is that in paleoclimatology, you know, and nobody disagrees with this, that the whole Earth is in chaos at that time, following the breakup of the Ice Age, which happens around 12,000 BC for reasons no one is quite sure. Shoch's written a very good book called Voices of the Rocks, where it's a kind of a state-of-the-art statement on catastrophe theory. So everybody knows that this catastrophe took place. No one's sure why. That's when all the woolly mammoths died and the woolly rhinoceroses, you know, all the mass extinctions are called the quaternary extinctions. All this took place. So, in my way of thinking, building all of this incredible stuff requires a long settled and stable civilization. You don't just build things like this in the midst of a worldwide, global, chaotic situation where there are earthquakes all over the place and huge floods and everything's unstuck. So, but nevertheless, the star alignments work for that 10,500 date. But because of these various, let's say, these mitigating factors, I don't like that date. But the only other choice is to push it back another full precessional cycle, which is effectively 26,000 years. That gives you 26,000, that gives you 36,000 BC, which corresponds to the Egyptian texts themselves. So even though it looks outrageous, particularly to an academic, to me, it's the more plausible of the possible scenarios, and it just remains to be seen, you know, if we're able to actually date this thing. The dating will probably remain conjecture until or unless we're able to put a date to it, or find somehow or another, if we get permission to come back here with seismographs and radar and stuff like that, and are again able to, you know, we find other artifacts underground and we're able to date those by stratification or by finding something that maybe can be carbon dated. Who knows? There are a lot of possibilities for getting to a date. A lot of it really depending upon at least a few within the academic establishment saying, yeah, this stuff really has to be looked into. They're never going to say, yeah, we were wrong and you were right. But all I need is enough of a concession that say, this is interesting. Let's put some time and effort into trying to get behind it. We'll see what happens.
The age of Leo marks the beginning point of the vast celestial cycles known as the precession of the equinoxes. The Sphinx, as the marker of Leo, demonstrates a knowledge of complex celestial mechanics and the observation of phenomena spanning tens of thousands of years.
Okay, guys, so that was just a very short video that I found very interesting. It correlated a lot with a lot of my research over the years, and I talk about this many, many times, the fact that the alignment of the Leo, two previous precessional periods aligns with constellation of Leo. So we're talking about people that architect. We're talking about Shoch, the Hermetic person, who, you know, he's also known as Hermes, that has architected these principles, but also was what they will call a master magician, which is really a person who understands the link between spirituality and physics. He's been able to combine the two. I talk about this a lot in the book. He's a master architect, and the reason why I say this is because no matter where you go on this planet Earth, you're going to find pyramid structures. You're going to find thousands of pyramid structures, pyramids that haven't even been discovered yet. A lot of them are buried. If you go to Mexico, I went to Teotihuacan, Mexico, a couple of years ago, and every single hill, the archaeologists told, every hill in Mexico City is a pyramid where the top has been blown up and a church has been put on top. And we're talking, that was just hundreds just in that one city. Over the planet, we have all these pyramids, and the reason why is because the master architect himself, if you read the book, he sends people, his other people that came with him, his crew, around the planet to reproduce what he did in the land of Kim after the Great Flood. And this is why these pyramid structures, with their own special motif and their own little look and their own little twist, overall, it's the same exact architect. And then when you look into some of the space probe data, you find these same architectural type structures across our solar system. The reason why is because the Atlantean civilization was not just a ring city. A lot of people are, oh, it's just a ring city that sunk. No, Atlantis is this entire planet. We're all standing and sitting on top of Atlantis right now. Not only was it a global civilization, now that I've studied a lot of the space data, it was an interplanetary civilization, and more data coming eventually in the future, I'm pretty sure will prove it was a intergalactic civilization as well. When you go into some of these ancient texts, these real ancient texts, and they talk about wars in other galaxies and so forth. This is crazy stuff. So, you know, we're talking about a very ancient race of people who had grown to a very high level of understanding and technology. And at least the more recent visits that we had by these Anunnaki people, in my estimate, were at least 1 million years ahead of us technologically. Think about that for a minute. If we had 1 million more years to develop, just where we came from 100 years ago, horse and buggy, to now we can send remote control cars to other planets. Think about that. Imagine where we'll be in 1 million years. That's only what we did in 100 years. Imagine 1 million years if we continue to grow consciously, spiritually, and technologically all at once. We can be at a very, very high level, talking about golden age level, where people would live for thousands of years. We're already getting to that point now where we can replace eyes now. We can replace bones with 3D printed bones. We have the capability of replacing broken spinal cord nerves with stem cells now. People who are paralyzed are starting to walk again. This is just the beginning. We can 3D print veins, lungs. We can create blood plasma without having to get blood donations. All this stuff is possible now. So we're talking about already developing the human race into a position where it could live, where it could have an extended life. So now you add spirituality to it, you add a high level of consciousness to it, you add all these things to it, and you can see how people like this can live for tens of thousands of years and develop, the ability to be an intergalactic race. Sphinxes are everywhere. You're going to find sphinxes all over the world. Again, part of the architecture. This is a very interesting piece here. We're getting ready to go into the principles. Along the 33rd degree parallel on Earth, you're going to find structures all around the entire planet. I talk about this in deep space. And you're not only going to find structures, but you're going to find a similarity between the structures, and you're going to discover this thing called a triptych design, where you have these 3 windows. If you look at the bottom of the screen, where you have the Mexico, Egypt, and Cambodian pyramids, you'll find that they all have this triptych 3-window design, which has been now incorporated into the majority of all Catholic churches, and a lot of churches around the planet have incorporated this exact same triptych design. This goes back into deep, deep, deep antiquity, and it's part of the master architecture where we're talking about the original, now in not modern times, they call it the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, but this was the original Trinity. It represented the original Trinity. It really had nothing to do with some of the references in some of the more modern day books. It goes back into deep, deep antiquity. But across this 33rd degree parallel, not only on Earth, but also on Mars, you're going to find amazing structures that exist, and they're all with the same exact architecture, which means we're talking about the same architect. So we're talking about an advanced race of people. And again, the reason why I go over things like this before I start into a particular topic, some people just go into a topic right away. I like to establish the credibility, the understanding, where these people came from, where their knowledge came from, how knowledgeable are they, and so we can make an educated decision ourselves until we listen to what they have to say. I'm thinking if somebody's this intelligent, this bright, has these amount of capabilities, not only to establish this type of architecture, megalithic structures all over our planet, but leave behind this type of information that they, according to Thoth, claims that he left it here for a time when a new man will be born under a new sun and be able to understand and digest this information. That's actually us, the people who are here on this live feed, and the people who are out here trying to learn and spread knowledge and become more conscious. That's us. The time is now for this information, for these Semitic principles to be taught, learned, and understood fully. And I think that was really referencing people living in our time frame. Again, the fact that they were global, look at the God Self icons. You're going to find these again all over the planet. Doesn't matter, no matter where you go, Americas, Africa, Asia, you're going to find these same exact symbols everywhere. And this is just 3 examples. It's probably about 50 examples. So no matter what continent you go to, everything is there showing that, leading back to one main source, funneling back down to one architect. That was Thoth the Atlantean. Pyramid structures exist all over the entire planet, as I said before, many different shapes and forms. A lot of these pyramid structures are used for different purposes. This is what a lot of people understand. They weren't just for design and look. The Great Pyramid, for example, I'll give you a couple quick examples. The Great Pyramid in Giza is a multifunctional stone computer. It's used for power generation, wireless power generation. Now, obviously, you can't do it right now because it's been dismantled. A lot of the technology going up the Grand Gallery and resonating arms have been removed. The capstone, which most likely was probably a gold capstone, has been removed. And some of the other pieces of technology in the King's Chamber were also taken out. A lot of the pyramids around the world, all the capstones have been taken away. And it's not because of grave robbers or people looking to steal for money. It's because the people that were responsible for building these ordered them to be removed when they left this planet after the last pyramid war to basically turn off the technology, so to speak. Some pyramids were used for portal generators, power generators. This is the Great Pyramid, by the way. A capability of transmitting sound and images. All this was capable within the Great Pyramid. It also covered the halls of Amenti. If you go on Google Earth, or go to your Instagram app and put a post up and go to add a location tag, just type in halls of Amenti. You'll find it's a real place. Yeah, they know about it. And then some pyramids were used as healing chambers. So there's a bent pyramid in Egypt. It's in Saqqara. Actually, I visited that pyramid, and scholars were saying, mainstream scholars said that pyramid was basically for they were building it and they couldn't get the angle right, so they bent it at the top to finish it. No, that pyramid is a healing chamber. There's 3 chambers in that pyramid, which I'm going to talk about in my mystery school in October at private mystery school that I'm holding. There's 3 chambers in that pyramid. Those 3 chambers were healing chambers. Well, one of them was a healing chamber, one was a resonant chamber, and the other one was filled with a specific liquid. And there was one more room at the top where the actual doctor or physician would look down and it would generate a hologram of the person's body so that he could kind of like an x-ray, but it's more advanced, and the physician could see what was wrong with that person. That's what the bent pyramid is. It's not a pyramid that's bent because they couldn't get the angles right. This is just mainstream science, mainstream archaeology foolery that they put out there to keep you off track as to what's really going on. This is a grid of the Earth right here. And every single one of these points creates, number one, first of all, it creates a fractal system, which we know we're living in a fractal holographic universe, according to even Thoth and the Atlantean. I cover this in my book, The Companion of the Endless Habits, where he's talking about that we're living in a hologram. But also, every single one of these fractal points is a geode point where there's magnetic energy resonating from the planet itself. And every single one of these points, you'll find a structure, a magnetic anomaly on this planet. A lot of these anomalies where these points are underneath water, you'll find sunken cities there as well, or sunken ships and so forth. These are very, very important nodes on the planet that resonate and emit energy still to this very day. And the ancients knew how to access and utilize the zero-point energy, this magnetic fields and these energy points on the grid of the Earth itself. So this is the planetary grid.